that gleamed like sunlight, trees that wept sweet-smelling resin, animals unknown to the Nile. Imagine a land so rich and strange that ancient Egyptians called it God is land. A place not conquered, not ruled, but courted. Pharaohs didn't march armies there. They sent ships, prayers, and dreams. Its name was Punt, and for over 4,000 years, its true location vanished into legend. Close your eyes and picture this. Massive Egyptian ships slicing through unfamiliar waters, their sails tight with wind, carrying priests, scribes, and royal envoys. They weren't heading to war, they were heading into mystery. Somewhere beyond the horizon lay Punt, the kingdom that Egypt depended on, but never fully understood. And here's the twist. We know Punt existed, yet we still argue about where it was. So what made Punt so special that Egypt, one of history's most powerful civilizations, treated it like a sacred partner rather than a subject? The earliest Egyptian records speak of Punt with reverence. They didn't describe it as foreign. They described it as ancient, even older than Egypt itself. A land blessed by the gods, overflowing with myrrh, frankincense, ebony, ivory, gold, and exotic animals like baboons and giraffes. These weren't luxuries. Incense was essential for religious rituals. Without Punt, Egyptian temples would fall silent, their gods unfed by sacred smoke. One pharaoh in particular changed everything. Around 1470 BCE, Queen Hatshepsut launched the most famous expedition to Punt in history. And she didn't just send ships, she carved the story into stone. On the walls of her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, we see Punt not as myth, but as memory. Palm trees, stilted houses, heaps of incense resin, and most striking of all Punt's rulers, King Parahu and Queen Ati of Punt, are shown welcoming the Egyptians, not as enemies, but as equals. No chains, no tribute of defeat. Instead, smiles, gifts, and diplomacy. That alone tells us something powerful. Punt was not a colony, it was a partner. And here's a fascinating detail most people miss. Hatshepsut didn't just bring back incense. She brought back living incense trees, planted them in Egypt itself. Imagine the confidence. Imagine believing you could transplant the soul of another land into your own desert. But then comes the mystery. After centuries of trade, Punt fades. Egyptian texts mention it less and less until finally, silence. No conquest, no collapse recorded. Punt simply disappears from history. So where was it? Historians have argued for generations. Some place Punt along the Red Sea coast. Others say modern-day Eritrea, Ethiopia, or Somalia. Recent scientific studies add a shocking twist. Analysis of baboon mummies from Egypt suggests the animals came from the Horn of Africa. That places Punt somewhere near today's Somalia or Eritrea. Yet even now, there's no single answer everyone agrees on. And maybe that's the point. Punt wasn't just a place. It was an idea. To Egyptians, it represented abundance without war, wealth without domination, and connection without conquest. In a world obsessed with power, Punt stood for balance. Here's another little-known fact. Egyptians believed their gods originated in Punt. Some myths claim Ra himself once walked there. That's extraordinary. Civilizations usually place themselves at the center of the universe. Egypt didn't. They looked outward to Punt. Ask yourself this. How many ancient empires admitted another land was older, richer, and closer to the gods than themselves? And then there's the human side. Imagine the sailors' weeks at sea, navigating unknown coasts, returning home with stories no one had heard before. Animals that looked like they came from dreams. A queen of Punt, whose body was carved realistically, not idealized, making her one of the most human depictions in ancient art. Punt feels real because it was real. Yet today, we still search. No ruins clearly labeled. No capital city confirmed. Just fragments art, text, goods, DNA, and whispers. It's one of history's greatest unfinished puzzles. And that's why Punt matters. Because history isn't just about what we know, it's about what we've forgotten. Punt reminds us that entire kingdoms can vanish, not in flames, but in silence. That trade can shape empires as much as war. And that some of the most important places in history are still hiding in plain sight. So let me ask you, do you think Punt will ever be definitively found? Or was it always meant to remain half legend, half truth? If you enjoyed unraveling this ancient mystery, make sure to like the video. It tells the algorithm you want more deep history like this. Subscribe if you want stories that textbooks skip. And comment below, where do you think the kingdom of Punt was located? Because sometimes the greatest treasures aren't gold or incense. They're the questions that refuse to disappear.